Hi everybody, Dion Lyle with Cherry25. I took a bit of a break from Fintech 5 during this early part of the COVID shutdown. I'm back doing something a little different. Instead of PowerPoint, I'm going to go over a paper that I recently published on Medium, which I'm starting to really like. It's called B2B Payments, an overview. So you can see here. And basically what I go into is the market and the market sizing in some of the sub-segments. And what's interesting about B2B payments, there's no 800-pound gorilla. There's no Amazon like there is in e-commerce or Netflix and movie streaming. There is no clear leader in B2B payments, which is incredible because it's $1 trillion market around the globe. So there's a lot of opportunity here. So net, B2B payments, highly fragmented, $1 trillion market. Now, one thing people ask me is they're like, well, Dion, there's a lot of segments here. Is it a market? Great question. So it's basically the ability to move money from one corporate entity to another to pay your bills. Under that are some subsegments: procure to pay, invoice to cash, domestic cross-border, liquidity management, and I have a model that I'll show in a moment about how that all breaks out. It's actually quite complex. Two reports that I use to really dive into this market: Goldman Sachs Equity Research, September 2018, and another one that I love, Credit Suisse, Payments Processors, Fintech, software is eating the world, payments is taking a bite. Love that. That's this report over here, and I'll go into that in a moment. But look at just some sub-segments here. 290 billion cross-border, 160 billion payment processing opportunity for card companies, 130 billion AP, accounts payable, AR, accounts receivable, software and services, working capital, disbursements. So many segments here, and they're all very paper-based. They're all very archaic. They need help. So 125 trillion with a T trillion TAM, total available market. Now that's not profit or revenue, that's TPV, total payments volume. Okay? So of that, 90% of this number is accounts payable. That's amazing. So what is accounts payable? I worked in this early in my career. PO is issued for goods or services. An invoice is issued against that PO. They have to match when the product or service is delivered. This process is rife with errors, delays, and paperwork. I literally had this happen to me in my own business 2 days ago. I sent out an invoice that said Dion F. Lyle, DBA, doing business as Cherry25. The partner came back and said, we can't pay this, it doesn't match the PO. I'd never seen the PO. I didn't know what the PO said. Well, it turned out the PO said Dion Lyle. I had to correct my invoice to match that because they couldn't or wouldn't match it. That's the kind of stuff you run into in this market all the time. It's very paper-based. It's very error-prone. Now, when we get down here, you see this chart. Sorry, couldn't figure out how to make it bigger. So when you look at the overall market over here, look at this, 125 trillion global B2B payments. Global consumers, 52 trillion, a huge market. But why wouldn't any company, and by the way, Visa, MasterCard, and Goldman Sachs are now going into the corporate payments for this reason. What I would say is, and I love this quote from Jeff Bezos, your margin is my opportunity. This is all dominated by banks today. Well, they're vulnerable, and there is an opportunity to take this business away. So now let's look at it. Goldman Sachs goes into the revenue in each segment. Core payment processing, right here, AP software, cross-border, and then payments total market. This is the revenue opportunity, 300 billion, 950 billion, 1.5 trillion in revenue based on that very large total payment volume. So here you see a really good diagram from SAP Ariba. Just look at how complex it is. And there's a lot of versions of this same idea out there. It's opaque, it's complex, and it's risky. There was an effort years ago, and I'm old enough to remember this, EDI, electronic data interchange, tried to close the gap here, didn't get a lot of uptake, and it was really difficult. Here's my favorite part. This is a quote from a treasury friend of mine. He was working on a project to update his corporate, won't name the corporate, systems. And all the feedback he got about, hey, this is great. Yeah, we like it. We'd like to do something. And the net was, at the end, everyone he got feedback said, can you make it look more like Excel? He was developing a modern tool to show corporate finance. And the only feedback he could get was, can you make it look more like Excel? So I highly recommend this report. There's links, easy to search. If you go to my paper on Medium, you'll see the links in there. Check it out. B2B payments is big. I'm going to do a couple more of these on the segments of B2B payments, the issues in B2B payments, and I think you'll find if you're in fintech or banking, there's a great opportunity here, and I highly recommend you take advantage of it and try to build a business here. I think there's great opportunity. Thanks a lot.